Hi everyone, my name is Emily DeSimone with the Garden State Film Festival, and here with me today I have director-writer Raghav Puri, producer Rajiv Colton, and editor Elizabeth Martinson of the film Dadu. How are you all doing today?
We're doing good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you so much. So, can you guys, Raghav, you wrote and directed Dadu. Would you like to tell our viewers a bit about your film?
Sure. Um, I think it's a fairly simple story about a man in his late 70s, early 80s who goes to a walk in the park and he meets this woman. And the film is about him trying to find this woman and spend some time with her. And it's a story about a grandfather and a grandson and how the both of them are trying to like come to terms to understand each other and understand their lives and be a little more empathetic. It's a story which I wrote based loosely on my own relationship with my grandfather. I've grown up with my grandfather and he's lived with me for several years and my parents. So I think I had a lot of experiences with him and this felt like one of the experiences I wanted to write about.
A bit of an attribution to your grandfather. I love that. And so, can you talk a bit about your experience with directing and writing?
I laugh because both Elizabeth and Rajiv will also laugh at my experience with writing. I love the idea of writing. I think writing actually is the hardest thing in the world, and I admire anyone who can do it. I think I first wrote like a draft of this one night. I had something due the next morning, and I wrote like a draft of the outline, which is a very different draft. But I remember reading it to Elizabeth several years ago. And then when time came around to doing a film, I pulled up that draft, and I was like, oh, maybe we should develop this a little more. So like I got into writing it, and I think I wrote it over a period of I want to say 7 8 months. And when I say I actually wrote it over a period of like 4 days of actual writing, but I would do a lot of stressing and a lot of thinking. And like I think it was really helpful because Rajiv and Elizabeth were there for like all these drafts. So I would have a draft and I would show it to them and I would be like, I hate this. And they're like, it's not terrible. And I was like, okay, let's do a different film. Thankfully, we didn't. Um, Directing this was interesting
Mhm.
because we just didn't have actor to play Dadu. It's, believe it or not, hard to find an elderly Indian man who was an actor in America. It was harder than we imagined. And I remember there was this one actor who I've seen growing up, and I think we've all seen growing up. His name was Brian George, and I'd seen him from like Big Bang Theory, and I'd seen him from like Avatar, and I was like, oh my god, wouldn't that be perfect? And I just like threw it out there in the universe, and then obviously I convinced myself that it would never happen. But we got lucky, and he read the script and he liked it, and he came on board. So that's how we were able to do the film.
That's fantastic. And Rajiv, can you talk to us a bit about what it was like for you to produce this film and maybe some of your experience with production?
So I had so this was done through Chapman University. It was considered a grad thesis film. I hope I'm not feedbacking a lot. And Raghav and I had worked on a film prior to this together, so that was our first time working. Uh, he'll probably laugh about this as well, and we're like, you know what, we should work on the next one together. So it was a good working relationship that we had built, which was really nice, and I think that's very important when creating a film is you want to work with the people that you work best with. So Elizabeth, Raghav, we had all worked on this film prior, and so we kind of had decided that, hey, on our grad thesis, we definitely want to pull our strengths together and work on this. And I think the great thing that drew me to this film was it's a very personal film for Raghav, and we had developed a really good friendship. And it was when somebody sells you on an idea like that, that's just like, hey, this is a story I want to tell, but there's a lot of depth and there's something that everyone can relate to, and it's personal. It's just it's a sure win. And as we've come to see it now, kind of through the last couple of months come together, we knew that it was challenging, as Raghav said. Like, finding the actor was just one of the little cherries on the cake. Doing locations was another, doing all of this. But I think through all of that, we had a solid team. And I think because we had a solid team, we were able to kind of put all of these and pull all these together. There were so many things that didn't make the film, and like whether it worked or not with that aspect, we were just like, you know what, we're going to go ahead with what we can and do. And I think the film turned out really well. So yeah, I think challenges in terms of producing were minimized because of our great team.
I mean, I think two parts of a successful, happy job is, 50% what you're doing and 50% who you do it with. Elizabeth, can you talk a bit about, editing for this project as well as, some of your experience in editing?
Sure. So as Rajiv mentioned, this was done for our grad school thesis. I had worked with Raghav on two previous projects, including the one that Rajiv also worked on. So as Rajiv said, we had a lot of experience working together. Raghav's a great director to work with because he understands what goes into editing and he understands what goes into making a good story. So he's very good to bounce ideas off of, and he's very open to like if I want to try doing a scene a different way, he's very happy to let me try it, even if it doesn't work. If it really doesn't work, we always get something out of it because it's like, oh, I never saw this scene like that. That's an interesting twist. We don't want to do the whole scene like that, but we can take this part of it from it. And in this film in particular, the challenge was for me, from my side, was there are a few key relationships between Dadu and his grandson, between Dadu and Rita, who you have to make sure that they're established. And obviously, it's only a 17-minute runtime, and you have to differentiate the relationships, but keep them both moving and keep them connected. So the challenge was just making sure that we didn't lose a character as we cut between the two relationships, and that we were able to keep building the narrative going on forward. We also had a lot of use. We used a few montages, which were very fun, but a bit stressful because there's obviously an almost infinite number of ways you can cut a montage. I think my favorite was the one in the park with Dadu playing with the dog because it's just so sweet and it was very fun to edit.
So you guys all came together in grad school then to do this.
Yeah.
You all went to school together. Oh, that's fantastic. So then what is your prior experience, I guess, that threw you into this program?
So I had worked in film in India before coming to grad school here. So I used to work in a film production house and then independently, and it was more in like commercials and advertising. So I used to direct that, and then I made the transition to like doing narrative. And then I got stuck with Elizabeth and Rajiv. I would also like to clarify that all these nice words they're saying right now are just for the interview. I never get these like thoughtful words.
Okay.
Yeah, go
Oh,
Rajiv.
I mean, Rajiv, how about you? Like, what were you doing that, threw you into this program?
So I've always wanted to do film. I'm from Sri Lanka, which is still, for those who don't know, it's a tiny island in South Asia underneath India. And so wanted to do film all my life. And so kind of pursued it and did an undergrad in Missouri, in Missouri of all places to do film. Came back home and felt like Sri Lanka doesn't really have a big film scene, unlike India has Bollywood and it's obviously well known. And I think for me, personally, my heart is to go back and do Sri Lankan content. And so because there wasn't much, I was just like, I need to further, broaden my, expand the horizons, all that fun stuff. And so I was like, oh, let's do grad school, which inevitably led me to Chapman University, Dodge College, which is where we all just graduated from in May of 2022. And how we landed in this is we were supposed to do 3 films while we're at school, and the directors kind of reach out to the producers, and so Raghav reached out early, and we've spoken about this, but in my mind I was just like, of course the South Asians are gonna reach out and stick together. But like we had a Zoom and we immediately clicked. I love the way he thinks about story and the way he thinks about character, and that's exactly how I did. And I was just like, oh, this is gonna happen, and so and the rest is history, as they say.
Elizabeth, how about you? What's your experience in editing?
So I didn't have much experience editing before I started at Chapman. I'd studied history for my undergrad degree, and I
Okay.
thought, maybe I'd work in documentaries. I'd be a history researcher, but I never really thought about making films. But over the course of doing my undergrad degree, I worked at a movie theater on campus, and I just sort of fell in love with the idea of filmmaking. After I graduated, took a summer course just to see what it was all about, and I loved the difficulties and the way, like, as an editor you're taking the production elements that the producer, someone like Rajiv, has pulled together, what Raghav has gotten from the actors on set, what the writer has written. You're pulling it all together to make a cohesive film. And so I just really enjoyed that sort of shaping the final product, and decided that, yeah, I wanted to try my hand at this. And I didn't know anything about editing programs, about how to structure a story. So I just looked around for film grad schools, and I got very lucky to get in and meet people like Raghav and Rajiv.
I hope you guys got an A. Did you get an A?
I think we did.
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, look at you guys are getting accepted into film festivals with this. So what brought you guys to the Garden State Film Festival?
I think it's a festival which I know someone went to last year, and they had a really nice experience. And they had attended, and they spoke highly of it, and it was recommended by someone else also, and which is why we had applied through another faculty member also who had recommended it. And I think once we got in, it was like really exciting, and we're hoping to be there in New Jersey in, I would say, moderately good weather at that point. Also, I'm probably wrong.
It was. We usually hold it in late-ish March, so it was probably better than it is right now. I mean, you guys are in Los Angeles,
Yeah.
so I don't think anything really compares to that weather. But well, so is this going to be your first time at the Garden State Film Festival for the three of you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, congratulations and welcome.
Thank
Are
you.
you guys planning on coming?
That's the intention.
The goal.
So, with that said, what is it that you really want your viewers to take in from watching this film?
Rajiv.
I was literally like, hey, homie, this is. We've talked about this a lot, actually. And I think, again, going back to just what we want to do as storytellers and what we want to do as filmmakers is not just present one thing, and hopefully different audiences can take away different things. And I think that's one of the beauties of Dadu, is there's so much to unpack in this film. On the surface, it seems like, the struggle of aging, and a grandfather who's trying to connect with his grandson and just trying to find a meaning of life again. But there's so many elements, and again, I'm not going to spoil anything because I'm assuming this will probably play before people see the film. But there's so many aspects of this film that anybody of any age and any background, regardless of whether you're in the US or a different country or from a different culture, that you can take away. And I really hope that in its essence, people take away what it means to be human and what it means to have relationship with other human beings, regardless, again, of Dadu being old or Daman being young or Rita. Like, it's just about who we are as people and how we, I wouldn't say survive, but how we kind of just function having relationship with other people and what that means. So we're hoping that people will take away what it means to be human.
I nominate you to say all the answers.
You've had lengthy conversations, so it's just like off the top of my head. I'm like, this is what.
I mean, Elizabeth, how about you? What does this film mean to you?
For me, I think similar to what Rajiv said, but for me, the heart of the film is the relationships that the characters build. The obviously the core one between Dadu and Daman, and their differences just based on age, but just the importance of our relationships and our interconnectedness with our friends, with our family, with strangers that we meet in the park or on the street. Just that which brings us together, I think, is really what's at the heart of this film.
Well, I'm so excited for you guys to be here and for your live viewers to be able to watch your movie when you do come to New Jersey. It's not still going to be winter, but it won't be like spring yet. So, maybe pack, a long sleeve or at least a light jacket. But I do so look forward to meeting you all in person. Do you have any advice from the three of you that you've learned from school that you'd love to give some incoming director, writers, producers, or editors?
I would say find your people and be kind.
For me, it's just go for it. If you're interested in it, even if you don't have any background or knowledge, just take the plunge. Why not?
That's kind of what I was going to say. Be open. You never know what's going to come out of what script and what story and what group of people. So just definitely be open. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. If you do, you do.
Thank you guys so much for joining with me today. You guys, you can see the film Dadu on Saturday, March 25th at the Berkeley Continental from 2:45 p.m. to 4:45 p.m. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day in a beautiful, sunny, warm city. And I will see you guys hopefully next month.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you
Hopefully
so
soon.
much.
Thank you so much.